This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo.
All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. Then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1, power line plan still in the headlines. A proposal for First Energy to run a power line through downtown Youngstown was shot down by the state board. Though the project gained no traction from the start, there are few details on what the power line plan would have accomplished, but either way, the project would have altered improvements that have been made in the downtown area already. That's why story number 1 made it in this week. Story number 2, will speed cameras make a difference? Youngstown has finalized a deal to put unmanned speed cameras in school zones. The speed camera story has been trending, but has resurfaced with the city penalizing speeds of 11 miles per hour above the speed limit at $100, 12 miles per hour to 19 miles per hour and over, they will penalize them at $125, and speeds up to 20 miles per hour over at $150. That's money. Lost money. The article does point out data showing that at least 21.3% of motorists traveling in school zones they're driving at least 11 miles per hour over the speed limit, but at the moment, the article does not have enough data on how effective speed cameras will be. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Watch your speed. Story number 3. Council steers away from parks. One local article concerning funds set aside for city parks has made headlines. The article talks about how city council has steered away from a $400,000 request for city parks. The article goes on to talk about what sparked the discussion about park spending. The story is still developing. The main talking point at the moment seems to be the lack of concern when it comes to the needs to develop a plan to create an equitable neighborhood park plan. So, parks plan, if you want to be plural, singular, all that stuff. Now, this includes improvements to pavilions, equipment, and playgrounds. So this is all park talk, folks. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Big head. Story number 4. $250,000 for road projects, folks. Road improvement projects have been in quite a few headlines. North Jackson made headlines after a $250,000 road widening project near the Macy's Distribution Center was approved. The distribution center is undergoing $30 million in renovations to dedicate a portion of the building to fulfill online orders. That's why story number 4 made it in this week. Story number 5. What difference will Jennings make as superintendent? The goal is to pull away from academic distress. That's the goal. This will be the mark aimed for Justin Jennings. That's his goal, who has been voted to assume the role as superintendent for the city of Youngstown. So far, Mr. Jennings, his term has been a roller coaster ride. Now, at one moment, he was considering leaving the city to take a job in Akron. Now, Jennings will be accepting a $10,000 bonus and a $190,000 a year salary. That's big money. Some local residents still question the job that Jennings has done because the Youngstown district is still staggering trying to get out of state control, and COVID-19 hasn't made it any better. Now, one local Vindicator article says that there has been no progress made as regard to the district emerging out of distress. Now, the story is still developing. That's why I made it this week. Story number 6. Lordstown remains in the headlines. Lately, Lordstown Motors has been in a lot of headlines, folks, for the continued press as a local job magnet. That's what the press has been about. People concerned about these jobs and a lot of investments. This is all due to the current investments that's being made by companies like GM, LG Chem, Lordstown Motors, and even Foxconn is in the mix now. Now the news in circulation is about the town's water connection, a $1 billion project made headlines May 18th because the project was stalled due to issues with a water service connection with Warren. If there has been any progress since the date, it has yet to be reported, but what got the story in is the continued potential job stories keeping Lordstown in the headlines. The article resurfaced on Sunday, May 22nd. It almost made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Doing it for you. Story number 7. Youngstown wants, needs, and desires are still in the news, folks. There is a lot of trauma that comes along with living in a city, and once again, Youngstown is marching, fasting, and praying for an end to violence. It's important to note that Youngstown is not the only city praying for peace, and the fact is that many of America's major cities are trying to get a grip on crime rates. We just saw what happened in Texas. Now, what a lot of Youngstown residents may not know is that Youngstown is fertile when it comes to investments. That means the city is always in need, which makes it a top place to start a business outside of all the other distractions. Now, the city is also cheaper to live in compared to other cities. So overall, this story could prove that Youngstown is not the problem. It could just be the people. How this develops, nobody knows. Now, Youngstown wants, desires, and needs, like any other city, good people. That's why story number 7 almost made it to the top this week. Story number 8 at the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week for you. Let's do our dance. Top story. Do our dance. Top story number 8. Yeah. Some Valley residents are still slow to rebound, folks. If a reporter were to ask Valley residents and local families how they're doing financially when it comes to keeping up with rent, groceries, or finding a job, you may get a variety, some very different answers, a variety of different answers. Now, the COVID rebound is slow, and some people still refuse to dive back into the job market. The truth is that many employers still say that they need help, even though hiring is up and stats show an uptick in local employment. The local workforce remains a top headline. In top headlines, and many local residents have fallen behind and are very slow to rebound. Some are feeling that they may never rebound. And the key stat to look at is bankruptcy filings and how many people have fallen to the financial hole. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week, folks. Those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines. So don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, I am a Navy veteran. I served in the war on terror. I barely made it out with my full brain functions out of that war. So this Memorial Day, I will be reminiscing. I will share this story with you. I remember before the war on terror began, I was in the barracks, and my buddy Williams, he was my roommate, and he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. He was actually training to be a Navy SEAL. So I came in the room one night, and now in the military, I have to warn you that you do see some odd things. So I come in the room, and I see my roommate in some dirty underwear with glowing rave party lights on his glasses and in his hands, and he is dancing in the mirror in his drawers. And I couldn't help but be traumatized, you know. I said, Williams, what the hell are you doing? I said, don't you know what's going on? People are terrorizing the world, and you're in here in some drawers. Now, come to find out, when you meet people from all over the United States, you find out that they have some freaky ways of handling trauma. And this was his way of handling trauma. What he would do is he would climb up on the rack with dirty boots, and he would get in the mirror in his dirty underwear with glow lights and go to rave parties. So that's what I learned about the military, is that the world is filled with oddballs and some strange things that people do to relieve and to show relief and to relieve the stress in this situation. In all of manhood, I had to sit in a room with a roommate who had some dirty drawers, sitting in the mirror while I had to get some work done, dancing, getting ready for a rave party, folks. Traumatizing memories, folks. Let's get to story number 1. Hurricane season could be the dagger, folks. We've all hit a wall when it comes to bad news, but now the weatherman is saying to keep a good watch on hurricane season because it could be a bad one. Now, in the past, major news stories about the weather have stayed consistent, but if we revisit some of the areas that have been hit in the past, we may notice an alarming trend. And the fact that remains is that these areas have yet to be rebuilt. So let's hope that we can be safe. Now, this has a lot to do with how expensive it is to rebuild after a storm hits. Either way, this story will keep us all on alert. If it doesn't, then we could all be caught off guard by the weather dagger. So let's stay on guard and stay safe, and watch out for those roommates with glow sticks in the mirror in dirty drawers. Story number 2. Sex is in the news, folks. Let's talk about sex. Nasty sex won't go away. Everybody's talking about steaky legs and jiggling and gyriding and all that stuff. U.S. birth rates are on the rise, folks, for the first time in 7 years. But the abortion stories are keeping sex in the headlines. The argument is about what's right and what's wrong. The surprising thing about this story is how long it has stayed in the headlines, from sexual dysfunctions to how people are adjusting with today's open culture. People are talking about sex in just about every form and fashion. Just to give you an idea of how things have changed, people are even talking about sexual abuse out in the open. They're talking about it. If keeping sex in the news will change anything remains a big question. But somehow, sex remains a hot topic. What people are doing in their private time, I've never seen anything like this in all of my years of living. But everybody's talking about what they are doing, the freakiness, the freaky things. It's nasty. Sexual education has also been in top headlines because of special interest groups. You can credit them for that, and the current attention that's being drawn in their direction. These special interest groups are very doing some very unusual sexual things, and this caused a lot of sexual confusion. Somehow sex stories are staying in the headlines, and somehow everybody's getting it but the Mediator. Oh, that's my sexual confession. I'm not getting anything but what they say, a fantasy and a dream. How about that? That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. What's up with all of the outbreak stories? SARS was, I think that was probably one of the first ones that in recent 2020s and all the 2000s. And we had COVID. Now we had COVID. You know, monkeypox is back in the headlines, and other outbreak headlines have the outbreak stories trending. So the more these stories make it in, the more they get reported. Now, the biggest talking point in this headline is how consistent outbreaks have been over the years and how we had to stay on watch. These are becoming top stories. COVID-19 really freaked a lot of people out. Now, fear-mongering is at the heart of these stories, but what is scary is the reality of how long outbreak stories that go back. So these stories go back throughout all of mankind. So this is nothing new. But right now, people are there's still a lot of people, some people in panic mode as the world tries to move on. Now, the world has always had outbreak stories and new current outbreak news stories is keeping this trend alive and keeping this story in the news. That's why I made it in this week. Big headline, because outbreaks, especially when you talk about monkeypox and all that other stuff, keeps people afraid to go about their daily life, because some people are just afraid to die. And sometimes you just have to, what they say, the only thing worse than fear is fear itself. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4, the reminder that the war on terror is still alive. On Memorial Day, we remember and reflect. The sad part about this story is the simple fact that the war on terror is still in the news. To give you an idea of this domestic issue, let's look at the evolution of terror. Once the criminal mind grasped this concept, it has been a thorn in the side of people trying to stop the spread of this ongoing problem. Terror, period. Now, in the latest case, mental health is not always the issue, folks. The fact remains that people increasingly see terror as a way to inflict their intentions and pains upon others. It's an idea that has spread wild. This story is still a top headline because the idea of terror is the problem. And when people are not afraid to bring this idea to life, it's even more of a problem. The question now is, how do you stop it? The story is still developing. That's why story number 4 made it to the top 8 this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method.inc.com. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. We are celebrating Memorial Day, so I'll share some Memorial Day stories. When I was a kid, I had this cousin. I won't say his name, but they called him Way, and I seen something frightening that I never thought I'd see in all of manhood, my entire life. First thing I saw was one day he had his sister's underwear on. I couldn't believe it. I never thought I'd see anything like this. But as I grew older and I started understanding how some people just have a different way of thinking. And I shared this with you in the last story, is that some people do freaky things to relieve stress. And I don't know why human beings are built like that. We all have a freaky way of relieving stress. So one day we're all in class, and this was when they started integrating girls and boys into the military, and we were all in class. To this day, it remains a mystery. One of my classmates in the military had on one of the girls' t-shirt. Well, he had on her t-shirt, and she had on his t-shirt. To this day, we don't know what they were doing to relieve their stress. Just like I don't know why my cousin had on his sister's panties, a male. So we're trying to decipher all this stuff of this confusing world we live in, when terror is confusing. And it's even more terrorizing when you see these things. Why do people exchange clothes? Are they trying to relieve stress, or were they just doing some freaky things the night before? Unsolved mysteries of why terrorists and why normal people do freaky things to relieve stress. Well, folks, those are something to think about this Memorial Day. Those are my scary memories. But I'm moving on to brighter things, because Osama is gone. But the war on terror remains confusing, because people are doing some freaky things before they get into the battle. Well, let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. It's a freaky world out there, but those are true combat stories. Story number 5. The border is still a top concern, folks. There just isn't a solution right now, folks. The border has been overrun. America has over 15 million illegal immigrants, and probably even more. No one knows accurately how many people are currently in the country illegally. The border stories are real, folks, and they are still alive. It is so bad that political leaders and activists are on the edge of their seat trying to keep people from coming into the country illegally. The story is so bad that they're now blaming the slow COVID-19 progress on infected illegal immigrants. They're saying that they're spreading the virus. Now, many activists say this. Well, many activists are saying this, and they're keeping this story alive, and that's how this story is staying alive. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6: the Wild Wild West. We're going straight to the Wild Wild West. We're going straight to the Wild Wild. Let me clear my throat. Wild Wild West. Another mass shooting, folks. Another moment of silence. Another day at half staff. Last week, the report was at 33, and around this time last year, it was at 37. I never thought in all of my lifetime I'd see Steve Kerr shedding some tears. Current mass shootings have stalled progress and prevention, but has put even more attention on how these incidents keep happening over and over again and why. Just so you get a clear picture of this, folks, the list is big, and a lot of people have been victimized and traumatized from just about every community, race, creed, and color on these evolving and continued mass shooting stories. They've really made some people numb. Now, the attention once again is on guns and how to keep them out of the hands of people who want to misuse them. Questions remains on why an 18-year-old kid with his whole life ahead of him would go on a shooting spree at a school and in the process kill children and his grandmother and lose his own life. Story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week, but it keeps us wondering about this wild, wild country that we live in. As I said before, people do some freaky, scary things when they're trying to relieve their stress. That's why we all need an outlet, folks. Even if it is wearing, well, I don't want to get that, but I'm sure you get the picture. Don't try that outlet. Try something better like mediation. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed. That's all I'm here for you. I'm spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. Mediation. These little town blues are fading away. King of the hill, top of the hump, yeah, baby. Woo! Oh, yeah. Story number 7. The mysterious job market. It's mysterious, folks. Mysterious. This is some X-Files type stuff. To paint a picture of the current job market would be like chewing a grape with a seed in it. At the moment, the job market is mysterious, folks. It's so mysterious that when you go to a business, it could be like an episode of The Twilight Zone. It's just like eating a grape with seeds in it. The manager's face looks pissed while chewing. That's how bad these stories are. That's how mysterious the business climate is. Now, what's keeping this story alive, even in circulation, is the fact that even with the help wanted signs up, managers have little help, and they are very, very tired. Now, but if you talk to any current business owner over the years, they will tell you that this is nothing new. American business owners have always had a hard time finding good quality workers. Many businesses will also tell you that if you can get applicants to pass a drug test, that you're lucky in this new day and age. Just to make things even better, Samsung plans to create 80,000 new jobs with a $356 billion investment. And folks, just like I told you, when you start hiring people, the world is filled with all freaky type of people. And like I said, in this Memorial Day, I'm remembering all the freaky things I've seen while on active duty. Now, I ain't no saint, Maybe I am. I don't know. But we all got a little nastiness in them. But some people have a very, very freaky way of doing things. And even on the workroom floor, there's a lot of people missing in action. I mean, when they're missing, they're doing something freaky. I can guarantee. That's why I started number 7. Made it to the top 2 this week. Big hit. Story number 8 is the top lucky number 8 ball headline and the developing news story that made it this week. We're headed to the 8 ball, baby. Do your dance. Yeah. Do your dance. Yeah. Into the top story. Story number 8. What we all will remember years from now, folks. Last story. Every day, folks, there's a new story, a new way to think, and a new way to view the world around us. So now we ask the question of what will we remember years from now, especially some of us who make it to our golden older years. Will we remember the good or will we remember the bad? The good or the bad? Will we remember the wars or will we remember the peace? With so much bad news in the headlines, it is very hard to comprehend that there is good news out there. Every new life is being born into the world every day. Every new life, that's every day, that every new life has a different outlook. Every new life has a different journey. But every day, new life is being born. So there is something to think about. Now, this new life always has the ability to shape how we all remember. I'll start Memorial Day weekend with a good story and a good memory. I told you, we all have a freaky way of thinking, but here's a good story for you. And since we're in these crazy times, I will give you something crazy to remember. We all start out rushing to get to an egg in our mother's womb. I'm sure we all have a purpose. So why forget our journey to get here by ending it in a mess? Folks, that's our little message, this top story. This week I won't end it with bad, I won't end it with good, I'll just end it with a memory. So you can remember on Memorial Day, we're all here. We all have to be here for a reason. And if we're not, we have to find a reason to be here. Instead of doing something bad, think of something good this Memorial Day weekend. And be thankful that you get another chance at life. I survived the war on terror, so I must be here for a reason. I almost didn't make it out fully, but I'm here. So every day I have to convince myself and get up to do this job for you to keep you informed. So this Memorial Day weekend, if you don't find any happy thoughts, think about me. Think about the veterans. Think about the people who've journeyed through the wilderness, through the madness of society, the madness of the world, and are still here and need something to think positive about. So be that positive light, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of the research, folks. I'm just a small man trying to find his way in the world, folks. So I'd like to thank all the news outlets and the journalists, people in the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator. If you want to show some support here at Method, it does not take much. All I have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Happy Memorial Day, and be safe, and find something positive to think about. And love is always the best medicine. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator with me, Brian West. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.